In talking about the House and Senate, we also want to look at the different powers that the two bodies have, and hopefully this will be a little bit of a review of some things we talked about back in Unit 1, but we're going to look at unique powers of the House of Representatives and the Senate. First of all, let's look at the House of Representatives. So it has a couple of main powers that the Senate does not have. It has the power of the purse, meaning all revenue bills must begin in the House. This is very important. As voters, we have the most control over the House of Representatives, so that's where all revenue bills have to start. That means taxes. That means we as voters have a lot of control over the people who are passing laws about our taxes. The other thing that the House of Representatives can do, they can impeach the President of the United States. So only the House has the power to bring charges against the President of the United States, to accuse him of a crime for which he will have to go under trial and see if he will be removed from office. So all revenue bills, this is a legislative power, all revenue bills must begin in the House. A check on the president is that they can impeach the president. And the third power of the House here is that the House of Representatives will choose the president if no candidate receives a majority of the electoral votes. So we talked about this a lot. If no candidate can get a majority of the electoral votes in the country, which right now is 270 electoral votes. If no candidate reaches that number, then the election is thrown to the House of Representatives, where each state gets one vote for President of the United States. So the reasons that the House has these powers specifically is the main one is that the House is the most accountable to the people. We mentioned earlier that the House of Representatives only has 2-year terms. And so that means every other year, the House of Representatives must come back. The people in the House must ask for your vote again. So they don't really have a lot of freedom to do things that are unpopular. They are always at risk of losing their seat in office. So because of their frequent elections, we have the most control over the House, which is great for really great for control over that taxing power, but also that causes the representatives listen to the people and see what the people think about the president when they're deciding that it's time to impeach the president. The other thing that's important here would be the very small districts. Since the districts are based on the size of the population, the districts tend to be pretty small. Your average representative can interact with a lot of people in his district, and you as a constituent have a lot of chances to interact with your representative. So this is the best choice. This is the best chance of having your voice heard in the national government, because you can easily reach your representative. You can probably easily travel to his or her office. You can write letters. You can reach them by phone, things like that. The other thing that's important here is that the House was the only directly elected body under the design of the Constitution. So this was the only thing that the voters had direct control over. And so that's why it was so important to give the House of Representatives the power of the purse, to give the House of Representatives the ability to control the revenue of the United States government, because we want to make sure that the people that are doing that and making those decisions, that those people are having to listen to the voices of the public regularly. On the Senate side, they have different powers that the House doesn't have. The Senate is responsible for what we call advice and consent, where they have hearings, and they approve of the president's appointments for different offices. So for judges to the federal courts, or for appointments to the cabinet, or for some other agencies, the Senate has to approve those appointments, and only the Senate has this power. Only the Senate can approve treaties that the president has negotiated with other countries. If the House has impeached the president, only the Senate gets to hold the trial to vote to see if it's time to remove the president. So the Senate will hold a trial for the president if the president has been impeached, and the Senate is the sole body that has power to vote to remove the president. We had said that the House would choose the president if there was no majority of electoral votes. The Senate chooses the vice president if there is no majority of electoral votes. So it is possible in this scenario that you could have a president from one party and a vice president from another party. But here the Senate has the power to choose the vice president if there's no electoral college majority. So the reason that the Senate has these powers, part of it's constitutional and part of it is just based on who's in office. The senators tend to be older and more experienced. Think about what the Constitution said about who could serve in the Senate. The senators had to be 30 instead of 25. Doesn't seem like a big difference anymore, but was a big difference in the in the 1700s. So the senators were older. They'd probably have a little more experience governing. We've talked a little bit about all the different types of voters that they have to appeal to, so chances are they're a little more moderate. The other thing that was important is that the senators were originally appointed by the states instead of elected. So the senators were representing state interest. And so the senator, that's why they had a little more control over things like treaties and appointments and things like that. So the senators were supposed to look after the interests of the states themselves and not necessarily the people. And the other thing about the Senate is they have those 6-year terms. Other than the judges, those are the longest terms we have. 6 years is a long time. So once they are elected to office, they don't really have to stay concerned with making the public happy all the time. They have a long time between elections. So if a senator was just elected in 2018, they're not going to be up for election again until 2024. That means they don't have to pay nearly as much attention to public opinion as the members of the House do. So they're able, because of their experience and their older age, they're wiser and more experienced. They're able to like more slowly and deliberately make decisions that are so important, like ratification of treaties or approval of federal judges. So this way, the Senate is less focused on public opinion, and so they have different powers than what the House was given. And the House must stay very focused on public opinion. So think about when we're explaining the reasons for this, let's think about how short their terms are or how long, right? The length of their term has a lot to do with the powers that they have. All right, so those are the basic differences between the House and the Senate. We really want to focus on the different powers that they have, but we need to think about all those differences when we're trying to explain the different reasons for the different things that they'll do. So it's really important. We'll have to compare all those different characteristics. We'll have all kind of questions about terms and elections and why senators are more famous and all that stuff. So each one of those characteristics, it's important that we can compare those. It's really important that we're able to describe the unique powers of the House and the Senate. We did that back in Unit 1, so this shouldn't be too hard to do, but it is important that we can explain why the House and Senate have these different powers. So in all of those little differences like prestige and media coverage and elections and things like that, all of those will go into describing the reasons that there are different powers in the House and the Senate and reasons why the House and the Senate might behave differently. So we'll have to think about all that. We'll think about the diversity, the types of places that the senators and the representatives come from, and all those things to explain why the House and the Senate are often behaving in different ways.